President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to address the nation very soon on how the government intends to manage the COVID-19 pandemic. This as COVID-19 infections rise, with indications the country is entering the third wave. Now, to talk more on what to expect is Sadtu Secretary Xolani Fakude. A very good afternoon to you, Xolani. Thank you so much for your time. From a Sadtu point of view, what are you expecting or hoping the President says?
Thank you very much, Brother. First, let me greet you and let me greet the viewers as well. It is a secretariat officer of Sadtu, not necessarily the secretary. Just that slight correction. Our expectation or rather hopes, let's rather talk about hopes, because we can only talk, we can only speculate as it could be appreciated at this particular stage. But our hope rather is that whatever announcement will be made, there should be a focus on how we really can manage the third wave in particular, in as far as it relates to the schooling community. What we have always seen is that what happens in the community always happens in the schools, on the schooling side as well. However, we remain optimistic because our observation is that there has been an element of improvement in terms of how the schools continue to implement the standard operating procedures, which we will continue to insist on, because as a union, we will always, it is in our interest, we will always ensure that indeed the schools are safe. So we're hoping that there will be a focus on limiting the super spreader events that we know might also become a problem as we speak about the language of the third wave. We're also hoping that we'll get more clarity about the COVID rollout strategy, or the COVID vaccine rollout strategy. With the education workers who are in the schooling environment, we really do want, as soon as possible also, to be included within the vaccination program, especially those of us who are also dealing with comorbidities, etc. So that is our hope,
Mr. Fakude, there was an announcement by the Education Minister, Basic Education Minister, that primary schools would go back, learners should go back by the 26th of July at least. By that time, many are expecting us to really be fully in that third wave. Do you feel that that was a wise decision to make?
Well, I can tell you now that we are moving towards the 26th of July. We still have got a number of weeks before then. What we're always going to emphasize on is that there must be a reliance on science and facts, which means that as a union, that this I can tell you with confidence, what we're going to do is that we're going to continuously observe and monitor what is happening on the ground. In fact, I can tell you now that Sadtu, joined by the other recognized unions in the education sector, we actually will be rolling out some surveys ourselves, targeting the school management teams and the principals, so that we can pick up as to the state of readiness to have all the learners in schools from grade R to grade 7 on a more regular basis by the 26th of July. So we're going to monitor the situation on the ground very, very, very closely, because we insist on the fact that the safety of our learners, the safety of our education workers is sacrosanct. So we're not necessarily going to be antagonistic at this point to that particular announcement. However, we are going to observe on the ground very closely as to what is happening. Should we need to come back in public and make a pronouncement otherwise, as in our view as workers, we will do so vociferously without any fear or favor for that matter.
I would imagine, Mr. Fakude, that you've been monitoring as closely as you possibly can right now. Have you been happy with how the Basic Education Department has been handling things as far as the COVID-19 pandemic is concerned?
Well, we believe that there has been some level of improvement. We started at a very, very low baseline. You would remember that as unions, when we started around last year March about this conversation, we had no less than 14 minimum requirements that we had set up for the Department of Basic Education, and we said that we are not going to go back to schools until this is sorted out. So, of course, it has been an ongoing conversation, and I can tell you that there has been an element of improvement, because the system is beginning to build a resilience within. We are comfortable with the fact that the department is beginning to talk more to us, because they also believe that we've got some important lessons on the ground that we have. Of course, we'll continue to raise all the other issues around the quality of the PPEs, for instance, around the availability and the quantity of the surface cleaners on the ground, around how we observe social distancing at that particular space of the school, and all of those other issues. We will continue to speak using the platforms that the Department of Basic Education always gives us. What we're also going to caution the DBE against is also making pronouncements that have got a very direct impact on our work conditions as workers, without first touching base with us. But we believe that there has been an element of improvement. Challenges are still there, but there is an element of improvement. On our side, we will continue to observe to make sure that we continue to observe all the standard operating procedures.
Mr. Fakude, just before I let you go, You mentioned that you would like the vaccine rollout to now include those in the education sector. How quickly would you like to be included in the vaccination rollout, considering that we are only in our second phase and we are still targeting healthcare workers and those aged over 60?
Well, the sooner the better. That's one thing that we can tell you. Actually, we would have preferred that by now already would have been included. However, this is now a national issue, it's beyond the sector itself. So we would have preferred to have been vaccinated already by now. But you would recall, you would understand, and I'm sure that is also part of the issues the President will be clarifying us on today, that there's been some challenges in terms of the vaccine rollout strategy. So all that we are saying is that now that we've we're busy dealing with the other issues of vaccine imperialism, as we've always keep on calling it as a union, we would have honestly preferred by now to have been covered. However, we remain confident that the leadership of this country has got the best interest of all of us as workers, and the sooner the better that they can get us vaccinated as education workers, it would be beneficial for the entire country.